All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg, going right on time here, just afternoon. Hope you had a nice Thursday. It is Friday. It's free for all, so your opportunity. Well, it's always your opportunity to call me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you think about what I've had to say. A lot of times I see comments in Halitics on Facebook, which is a great resource for you as well. If you want to share your thoughts, I hope you do. I hope you join it. Love to see the commentary there, and really just trying to keep the dialogue polite and respectful. It can be heated, it can be pointed, but not insulting. And I think we pretty much strike that balance. So a lot of people seem to enjoy the Facebook group, Halitics. Hope you enjoy the live stream that I do, the podcast, Mondays through Fridays, noon to 1. Pretty much every day. We'll probably be moving Monday back a little bit to 2 o'clock Eastern time to accommodate Arlen when he moves his operation from the Vermont region, from the Green Mountain State, that is, to California in a few weeks. The phone number here, 240-242-5646. Hope you'll join me. And I will just note that I did vote yesterday, and I had told you that I was I was never on the fence, right? I mean, it was always had both feet and most of my body on the green side of the fence, the Jill Stein side, but there was just a little, maybe a pinky or a small toe, little toe that was on the possibly Kamala Harris side. And no, I didn't go that way. I went, my whole body followed, my pinky followed me over the fence to the green side. And I did vote for Jill Stein yesterday. Very big crowd at the early voting center, the largest I've seen when I voted early, which I did in the last couple of election cycles. But I didn't go on the last day either. So it may be that because it was the last day of early voting, there were more folks. But yeah, it was a big turnout. And I was a little surprised, to be honest, because, well, this is the only election, is the presidential, that's really relevant. There's no local races that I'm aware of. There was school board, right? And I voted for the school board, and Congress. But no state delegates, no state senators, no mayors. We don't really have mayors where I live, but if you lived in a city or town that had a mayor, I don't think there were any mayoral races. So it was quite surprising to me that there was such a big crowd. And I wore my Stop Arming Palestine shirt, I'm sorry, of course, I actually want us to arm Palestine. I wore my Stop Arming Israel shirt. Let's see. I'll show you. You can see the stop there anyway. And got a number of compliments, people saying, oh, I really like your shirt. I think they were all Dems, as far as I can tell. I don't think there were a lot of Green Party voters there, including, as I walked out of the voting place, there's a Democratic desk there. There was a woman who was staffing that desk with flyers and I guess little visual aids to help you choose to vote for all Dems as she wanted. Actually, this is the first election in my life I didn't vote for any Democrats, to be perfectly honest. I think there were 3 I had an opportunity to vote for president, no. For Congress, that would have been Jamie Raskin, no. Hard no on Raskin. And then I didn't vote in the state Senate race. I thought about also Brooks. I certainly wasn't inclined to vote for Hogan, but she would just be another standard issue, knee-jerk vote for whatever the Democratic elites and establishment want. I just can't do that anymore. I'm just not there. I need a real progressive to vote for. She's not one of them. So no Democrats, first time in my life. Now, I did vote for the school board, and they are, I believe, all 3 candidates for whom I voted are all registered Democrats, but it's a nonpartisan election, so I think it's fair to say I didn't vote for any Democrats. Proud of it. Proud. All right, 240-242-5646 if you want to join me. We will continue on this program as long as the genocide goes forward, as long as Israel continues to slaughter Palestinians because they're Palestinian, because they're living on land that Israel apparently covets. As long as that's going to happen, I will continue to report it and feature it as the primary story on Halitics. 55. I take very seriously not in our name. I take very seriously never again. My people, I don't know, second, third cousins probably. I know my father had some relatives who were survivors. They made it to Birmingham, England. Obviously, they survived the Holocaust. My wife has survivors in her family. I'm not really aware of too many who were slaughtered, massacred, murdered in the mass murders by the Nazis. So my family, I guess, was fortunate. At least I'm not aware of them. But I take very seriously that notion we have to say no to genocide. We have to say no to inhumanity. And I'm not like claiming some kind of moral superiority or condescension, like I'm better than those of you who aren't as adamant on this, or who claim it's not genocide, or who say, well, maybe it is genocide, but we still have to vote for Harris. I don't claim some mantle of superiority. I've done a lot of things in my life I regret, I'm ashamed of, I'm embarrassed by. But in the end, this is something that I feel we have a human obligation, a moral imperative to stand up to say, no, we're not going to be complicit. We're going to do everything we can to stop it. And that means I can't vote for the Democrats right now. I can't do it. They're united in support of this murderous rampage by Israel. This endless massacres by Israel, pogroms by Israel that they've expanded. 55 killed in Gaza yesterday while Israel resumes raids across Lebanon. I really, really hope. Now, I couldn't vote for Harris because she's not once ever, despite given numerous opportunities to distance herself from the full-blown support that the Biden-Harris administration has given Israel, the full-blown support for their genocide. And she has, in fact, reiterated that she is unwavering in her defense of Israel. I'm hoping that those of you in the story, what I'm going to talk about today, the newest news that we have suggests that there's no backing away from that. Kamala Harris becomes president. She's not going to stop the genocide. I hope I'm wrong. Some of you have said that you believe there's something, good inside of her, that she shows empathy for these victims of Holocaust and that she'll do something, but she just can't. I don't give her those excuses. I'm not buying that, but I hope I'm wrong. I truly, truly hope I'm wrong. Just like the woman I spoke to yesterday at the voting facility. She said, I like your shirt, my Stop Arming Palestine, Israel shirt, my Stop Killing Palestine, Stop Arming Israel shirt. She said, I like your shirt. And I said, thank you. And I said, that's why I couldn't vote for the DEMS. And she said, I understand, but I believe, she said, I think that we have a hope. We have reason to believe we can move Harris. We have reason to believe that she will be better. And then she started telling me how she had seen Raskin yesterday or 2 days ago. This was yesterday. She had seen Raskin 2 days ago at the voting. He was there. And she buttonholed him and said, hey, you got to vote against arming Israel. You got to say you're not going to support Israel anymore. And she said he was close, but wouldn't commit to doing that. Now, he has on occasion voted against some arms for Israel, but he's not going to break with the Democratic Party. He's full on Democratic shill, voted for. This is the key, more than any other key. Every Democrat voted for Hakeem Jeffries, the Congress member from AIPAC and Wall Street. Every single Democrat voted for him. Every Democrat in the House voted for him to be their leader, for him to be the House Speaker when they had that opportunity to vote for him to be House Speaker. That means business as usual. That means no change. That means that anything that AOC tells you, anything that Ayanna Pressley tells you, it's all, anything that even, Cori Bush told you, it's a sham. It's fraudulent. Nothing matters as much as who's the House Speaker. They determine committee assignments. They determine what bills are going to make it to the floor. They determine what they're going to push. That's why the Republicans, people like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene said, we're going to demand a different House Speaker because they weren't getting what they wanted from centrist, well, they're still hard right, but from corporate centrist for the Republican Party speakers weren't giving these Freedom Caucus or whatever they call themselves Republicans what they wanted. And they were effective in moving their party and moving their party to the right. Our progressives have been wholly ineffective. They haven't even tried. When they've had opportunities, they've punted them away. And that's why our government continues to fund without any hiccups or hesitations, really, Israel. Israeli airstrikes killed 24 people in northeastern Lebanon. We mentioned capital Beirut hit. 10 deadly U.S.-Israeli air raids overnight, and 55 more killed in Gaza. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Harris was lying to you when she said there's going to be no change. I really, really hope she was lying to you. I know you think she was lying to you. But generally, she changes her positions. Let's not say lying. Let's say changes her positions to move to the right, to move away from the progressive wing of the party. She almost never, at least to my knowledge, has never moved to the left. Maybe just a little bit before the 2020 primaries, when she was positioning herself to be Elizabeth Warren of color to Bernie's right, but just to Bernie's right, when she came out in favor of Medicare for all at that point, and an end to fracking. But she's always moved to the right. When she's moved, she's always responded to pressure from corporatists, from elites, from voting blocs, not progressive voting blocs. Yesterday, I talked about this on my program. I also, on Halitics, I also posted in Halitics Facebook that, I believed Harris was likely to win this race. And I showed you a number of polls in Michigan by 4, I think, different pollsters, 4 or 5 recent Michigan polls that all showed her with, I think, at least a 2-point edge in Michigan, maybe bigger than that. Well, some were bigger, right? There was 5. I think she got a 6-point bump. She has a 6-point bump according to, or an edge, I should say, according to, I think, CNN in Wisconsin. Here are polls that I didn't include. These are all the polls that came out since yesterday for both Pennsylvania and Michigan. Oh, and Wisconsin too. There's Wisconsin. This is why I believe Kamala Harris will win. I X'd out that Rasmussen poll because they're just not credible. They're not a reliable pollster. Every other poll, except for that first one, the USA Today poll, shows Harris with at least a 2-point lead. This is in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These all came out yesterday. I don't know how you would conclude at this point she shouldn't be the favorite. Again, Michigan and Wisconsin Michigan and Pennsylvania, the 2 most key states. And I say Pennsylvania is the keyest because I think if Harris loses Michigan, which she won't, I don't think she will. Maybe she will. I mean, I don't know. I have no insider knowledge. But I think if Harris loses Michigan, she probably loses. I don't think she can win if she loses Michigan, because I think if she loses Michigan, she loses Pennsylvania and she's done. But it looks like she's going to win Michigan. And if it was like she was going to win Michigan by, half a percentage point, I'd say, well, it's a toss-up, right? Because probably won't win, or she might not win Pennsylvania. And she's got to, probably the winner of Pennsylvania wins the election, wins the presidency, wins the White House. You just saw those polls, including one in Pennsylvania. Two, well, there's three, but one I completely throw out, where she's got a 2-point edge, and then she's got a tie. Meaning, and then if you look at the others, and I think Wisconsin and Michigan polls, you can extrapolate to a degree. The voting populations are pretty similar in all three states. They're not identical, but they're similar. It looks like there's a late break for Harris. I didn't put this story in here. I did post this in Halitics. I meant to put it, but she's got a lot more money. She's got a much bigger war chest than Trump. There's a lot more big donors and small donors who are backing Harris. Wall Street likes Harris. Those of you, and I know when Arlen comes on, he talks about how the billionaires are destroying politics, which they are, of course, 100%. But he goes from that accurate statement to claim that they're ruining politics because they're backing Trump. That isn't the case. That simply isn't the case. We saw the billionaire class in 2016 back Hillary. Hillary got more support, for example, from the oil and gas industry. I think 2020 was kind of a wash. Trump was the incumbent at that point. And now we're again seeing much more money going to Kamala. So she's going to have more money for ads. She's going to be able to inundate the airwaves in those critical swing states. And she seems to have a lead. So at least as I dope it out, and I'm not cherry picking polls or anything like that. I'm just giving you all of them right there in front of you. That's not like what other hosts do, by the way. They'll say, oh, breaking news, this new poll. I heard Kalinsky say, this is the most important poll ever. And then he went on to say, and it shows that Kamala has a big lead, or she's going to win. And I actually agree she probably will win. But I'm not going to single out one poll and say, this is the proof that she's going to win. That's not what Nate Silver taught me to do. That's not what he said works. I saw a post on Facebook, by the way, that the polls are a scam. You shouldn't believe in the polls. Well, I think they may be a scam. I don't disagree. I mean, do we need polls? What's the purpose? Why do we need them? I would prefer they weren't maybe out there at all. Or maybe, you got to publish one poll a week or something like, I don't know. I'd like to see fewer of them, but they're there. I'm going to talk about them, period. They're not a scam. I mean, we know that the polls tell us a lot, and they are relatively accurate. All right, 240-242-5646. Love to talk to you. 240-242-5646. So I really think, obviously, and I really think, either I think or I don't think. I think Harris is probably going to win. This just was put up today after all those polls were published on 538. And it kind of makes me reconsider, right? I mean, this is the Oracle's website, Oracle being Nate Silver. He's not there anymore. He does a silver bulletin. But 538, scientific basis, scientific analysis of polls, they have Trump up. They have Trump 53-47, which is actually, I think it was 52 yesterday, 48. In terms of, likelihood. Now, I don't know why. I think it's because some of the national polls show him with the lead, and it's very, very close to the national polls, and they're betting that there's still a House lean Democratic in the polls. In other words, the polls overstate the support the Democrats will get. I'm not seeing that. Of course, I could be wrong, 100%. Want to feature for you, again, it is the free-for-all, But just wanted to make that point, right? I mean, they're experts. 538 is the experts. They're the math geniuses. They're the statistics majors. Not me. But just from looking at those polls, I'm seeing a break for Harris. I'm buying it. Not happy about it. I'm not unhappy about it. I'm hopeful. I mean, I don't want Harris to win. I'll be really honest. But I don't want Trump to win either. So I'm not going to get what I want. Whatever happens, I'm not going to be happy about it. All I can do is hope that I'm wrong about Harris. All I can do is, because I'm certain I'm not wrong about Trump, but maybe Trump will, he has expressed real sympathy for the, people, the victims of the Ukraine-Russia war that that we've been perpetuating. He has expressed real, certainly seems to be sincere concern for them. So I'm hopeful. I guess. I mean, it seems unlikely in the extreme that maybe Trump will try to stop the killing by Israel. Is it any more likely than that Harris would? Probably not. Is it less likely? Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. They both made it clear they're pro-genocide at this point. All right, this is what I posted yesterday. These were the polls. I'll be real quick, and I added a couple more today that also show Harris doing well. Why I believe Harris will win, and that's the Michigan. So that was my post. Okay, that's what I posted, and on Facebook. And then it was very simple. There wasn't a lot. I mean, it was really, really, really simple. Why I believe Harris will win, and then I got this response. No thanks to you, right? Like somehow I read that, well, no thanks to you. I wish we could divide the world into two. In other words, because I've been championing Jill Stein, if indeed Harris becomes this wonderful, transformative president who brings us all Medicare for all and peace and an end to ecocide, that I shouldn't get to enjoy those things, right? I should only get to live in the world that Trump would have created, which is, I guess, a hellscape. Well, I mean, I got a flash. Yeah, hellscape either way, in my opinion. But I don't get any credit for Harris winning if she does, and also I'm not a team player, which I thought was a very strange comment. Because it suggests if things don't go your way, you're willing to cause chaos. Well, am I causing chaos? I don't know how I'm causing chaos. I'm giving my position on this race, on who I think deserves to win and who doesn't, and why. I don't know that that's chaos. I think we saw chaos on January 6, 2021, because we live in a society where poor, struggling, working people are crapped on. And they're bitter and they're angry and they followed a false prophet. I do believe Trump's a false prophet, but he speaks to them. He recognizes, he acknowledges their pain, and the Democrats don't. And that's why he still might win. But to say I'm not a team player, well, I'm not on Team Democrat. I agree, but I don't know. I never said I was. I mean, if you're not a team player, that usually means you're actually on the team, but you don't play hard for the team. You play for yourself. That's what this saying. So I understand it. If you're not a team player, it's like someone at work who puts effort into glorifying themselves and making themselves look good, but isn't pushing the mission of the enterprise, of the business. That's not a team player. But they're on that team, right? They work for that company. It's like a quarterback who, lays out their receiver, throws a ball in a spot where if receiver can catch it, they're going to get hit really hard. Well, that you might not be a team player. Then you're not thinking, well, what's best for my team? I just want to get that ball to that receiver no matter what, even if the receiver is going to get hurt. That's not being a team player. You're padding your stats. You take a lot of threes. You jack up 3-point shots when it's not called for. It's not a high percentage play. That's when you're not a team player, but you're on the team. You're hurting your own team. That's what it means. But I'm not on the Democratic team. So how can I mean, yes, I'm registered as a Democrat, but I don't, they're not my team. I don't ever champion them or say that I want them to win, or they don't pay me nothing. So I find that a very strange kind of criticism. And I did respond, of course, but not an obnoxious. I'm not obnoxious. I just wrote, you act like I'm taking a victory lap, right? Because by saying, well, Harris is going to win, some people were happy and thumbs up, like they want that. But I'm not taking credit. I'm not gloating about it either. I don't care who wins, is what I said. And, I said I'm not a team player unless my team is humanity. I sort of said that wrong, because it's not that I'm not a team player. And by the way, I have a caller. I'll get you right on, caller, I promise. I am a team player when I'm on a team, but this isn't my team, so no, I'm not a team player. All right, let's see if we can get our caller on. Let me unmute my caller. Caller, you're on with Hal. What's going on?
This is Andrea Wilson in Monterey. The natives who lived many years, centuries, on this side of the planet were mostly killed by the Europeans when they arrived in the USA. The USA really belongs to the native peoples, not to the Europeans that came here, including my family.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Angela. But it's done, right? I mean, are you proposing that we should European descendants should leave? Or, I mean, my response to that is the people who are here now, we all should have enough and no one should have too much. The indigenous peoples...
Also, why I'm saying this is that the people who do live here shouldn't feel that this is their part of the planet.
How do you respond to the Israelis who claim that God gave them the Holy Land, 5,000 years ago or whatever it is, and they've been living there. They were there first, so somehow they get to live there and push everyone else out?
Well, I'm totally against religions that have done evil, regardless of where, who, when.
I mean, do you think what I'm saying makes sense? That, I mean, look, one thing that people do is we move around. And another thing that we do is we take over other people's territory. And another thing we do is kill them. Yeah. So it's going to be very tough to give. I don't know how we could relocate, 300 million people who are here. And we should recognize, I agree, that, we're borrowing the land. But don't we have the obligation just to make sure that everyone has a safe, secure home? And also no one has too much. No one has 3 homes or 10 cars or uses too many resources. Yeah,
that's right. And I think the original animals that were not humans, it's too bad that so many of them have been slaughtered, and it's just humans. It's too bad that humans existed, including me. That's about
how depressed does it make you to see? I mean, you're a senior, I believe, from knowing you and your husband. How depressing is it? Or maybe it's not. Maybe you have a philosophical attitude like this is the way it's always been. Or do you think, no, things are really way off kilter right now and worse than I had hoped they might be?
Yeah, way off kilter. Way off kilter. And we'll know in a day or two who's running things.
We will. Are you more hopeful about one than the other, or less hopeful for one than the other?
Well, neither the Democrats or neither the Democrats or the Republicans. Jill Stein is the only one that is a decent.
You're talking my language, Andrea. Thank you so much for chiming in. I hope you have a great weekend. Anything else you want to add?
Well, just thank you for doing everything you do.
It's very, that makes my day. I'm sort of got a little glow. I got a glow from that compliment. So thank you so much, ma'am. You have a great day, great morning still in beautiful Monterey.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
And that is Andrea. So thank you so much, Andrea, in Monterey. She mentioned how, the land was previously, in California, certainly there were, the whole United States was various indigenous groups of people, or tribes as we call them. And the Europeans basically moved in and killed many directly, others through disease, through stealing their land. Bill Clinton kind of takes the position that the Israelis were the original, or the Jews are the original inhabitants of Palestine, and therefore they get to live there, right? They get to live there whether you like it or not, or anyone likes it or not, and they get to push other people out. So the Jewish insider, this is why I said DEMS forsake Palestine utterly, because in Michigan, in a state where the Harris campaign knows that there's a significant percentage of Muslim voters, of Arab voters, not all Muslim, and Palestinian voters, not all Muslim, who are horrified at the wanton slaughter of their people. And Bill Clinton goes there, and let's just kind of tell you what the Daily Jewish Insider tells you about it, and then I'll give you a different perspective from a different medium. But what the perspective of the the perspective of the Jewish Insider is that, hey, yeah, some Muslims don't like what Harris and Biden have done, and they're against it, and they don't like their people being wiped off the planet. But you know what, Dems, that's too bad for them. Sucks to be them, but you don't want to give them any hope. You don't want to talk to them about how bad Israel is, or call for a boycott or an arms embargo, because that's going to hurt you worse. That's going to hurt you worse. That's the Jewish Daily Insider's response. We've offered a corrective to the claims that that supporting genocide is bad for the Democratic Party. While Muslim support for Dems has certainly declined, Jewish voters are twice as numerous in Michigan, and we, the Jews, are for the genocide. And you could lose the Jews if you start talking about Palestinians like they're human beings who deserve to live. So that's the position of the Jewish Daily Insider, and I fear they may tragically, horrifically be right about that. It may well be that anti-Palestine, anti-life policies are actually better for the Democratic Party. And certainly a major reason for that is because of all the money that AIPAC pours in, and because the media is so pro-Israel, right? I mean, that's the issue. But we should know better. We should know better. And we Jews should know better. If the Jewish, a big reason that the Democratic Party can get away with being pro-genocide is because there's no punishment from the Jewish community whatsoever, writ large. I mean, obviously there's some Jews like myself, but I'm not really part of the Jewish community, just like I'm not really part of the Democratic Party. So the Jewish community has sent a message to the Democrats: you back Israel, and we'll continue to back you. There'll be no penalty whatsoever for backing Israel. from us. And that includes our contributions, our donations, our, the money that we give with such generosity. That's all going to keep going your way as long as you keep supporting Israel. But the converse is all, So the Democrat Party being cynical, being amoral, being without any real concern for human beings, except to the extent that those human beings can help them out, help them get power, get money. It's a no-brainer. The media is, to a significant degree, owned by Jewish people, and to the extent their newspapers and the magazines and the TV stations aren't necessarily owned by Jews, Jews are high up, they're high-ranking, they have a lot of influence. There are a lot of writers who are Jewish. There are far fewer who are Palestinian. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates made the point. There's not one Muslim who's in charge of any newsroom or any, has any real power in any media, in any legacy or powerful media in this country. I think that Ta-Nehisi Coates said that. I think that's true. So if you're trying to win an election, I get it. If you don't care about human life, what's the calculus here? The calculus is there's more Jewish voters, and the Jewish voters want us to keep supporting Israel. That's ultimately the problem. And not just that there are more Jewish voters, but they have more influence, they have more money, and they are backed by an incredibly powerful PAC. That's the calculus. So ultimately, to a very significant degree, I blame my people. Why aren't Jews? Look, it's one thing to say, well, and I don't agree with this, but it's one thing to be like Arlen and say, well, I really don't like what the government is doing, and I don't want them to be supporting the genocide, but on balance, they're less awful than the Republicans. But what a lot of Jewish voters have said is, hey, if you don't keep supporting the genocide, we won't vote for you. And because of that threat to leave the Democrats for Trump, it's a no-brainer for Harris. I'm going to lose more votes if I do the right thing, if I show some concern for human life. I'm going to lose more votes. So why would I ever show concern for human life? Why would I ever take a pro-Palestine, pro-peace, anti-war position when it might well hurt me politically? So, okay, that's who politicians are. They're amoral. That's who she is. She's not compassionate. She's not empathic. But what about the rabbis out there? What about the cantors? What about Jewish leaders? Why aren't you out there with Jewish Voice for Peace? Why are so many of you following the Jewish Daily Insider line? You've betrayed all the good things, anything decent, good, right, that made me proud to be Jewish, you've betrayed it completely. And I'll tell you, that's why so many people are angry at Jews. That's why there's a rise in anti-Semitism. Sure, there are always going to be some people who hate the other. There are always going to be some people who, for whatever reason, they were taught not to like Jews, or just because people, there's going to be envy because Jewish people have more than most other people do. In many cases, a lot more. That's going to piss people off. So that's another factor, that if you don't want anti-Semitism, fight aggressively to make sure everyone has enough and no one has too much. So you don't have too much. But that's not the way so many Jewish activists and pro-Jewish groups act. Bill Clinton, when he was president, he had some complaints about Bibi. He said Bibi thinks he's in charge. Bibi thinks he makes all the rules. Well, I guess he does, because here's Clinton in Michigan justifying the mass killings of Palestinians in racist Michigan speech. That's how Huffington Post characterizes it. I think it's accurate. I think it's fair. one tweet out from Prem Thacker. He was there. Bill Clinton in Michigan. I understand. This is such an incredible statement by Clinton. It's so ugly. This is why I say Dems have utterly forsake Palestine. Dems, that's what my title is. Dems utterly forsake Palestine. I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that, but too bad. That sucks to be them, I guess, to be dead. It's all Hamas's fault. They're the ones who use civilians as human shields. There's like no evidence of that. There's no evidence. It's not like we find bodies that Israel has, if Hamas was using these people as human, other Palestinians as human shields, what you would expect to find is you'd expect to find bodies, right? With like one stacked behind the other. So one's like they can identify as a militant, the other's like a child. And the bullet went through the child into the militant. That would be a human shield, right? But Israel is shooting children in the head and the chest directly. They're not shooting people who are behind them. They shot a girl in her house in the West Bank. She was in the window of her house. She was sitting inside her house and some sniper just shot her in the head. That's what Israel's doing. Bill Clinton is lying. He's lying. And he's lying right there in the state where there's a lot of Palestinian voters. And why? Because obviously he's not doing this without the full knowledge and agreement of the Harris campaign. I mean, we know that. They vet every single thing that's done. But there's also this cynical, callous calculation. Oh, well, for every Palestinian vote we lose, we'll get 2 more Jewish votes in Grosse Pointe and in Bloomfield Hills and in Grand Rapids and in Ann Arbor. For every Palestinian vote we lose in Detroit and in Dearborn. That's the calculus of your Democratic Party. So I'm saying don't accept that. Don't fall for that. Don't buy that. And I'm going to say to Jews, it's wrong. This is wrong. You cannot let them pander to your religious identity pander to your religious identity by defending genocide, because that's what's happening. And it's sickening. It's despicable. It's wrong. I was looking at that Jewish Insider. I always find stuff to piss me off in it. I'm not going to play any of Clinton's speech. It just would frustrate me to no end. It would just nauseate me. It would just make me ill. So I'm not going to do that. At some point, I just have to put my own mental health ahead of informing you of everything. I saw this in Jewish Daily Insider. So this is today, November 1. Whenever I see anti-Semitic anything, I'm always very skeptical. Always my radar goes up. Always my doubts jump to the front. Some people say, oh, there's anti-Semitism everywhere. Look at all those headlines. I'm like, there's a very, very powerful media influencers who profit from claiming falsely that there's anti-Semitism everywhere. So this man was the former president of the Chicago Board of Education, and the Jewish Insider taking a victory lap here. I think his name is Elijah Johnson. It is Johnson. I'm struggling a little bit to make sure I had the right name, but so Mr. Johnson, or Reverend Johnson, according to the Jewish Insider, has a history of anti-Semitic posts. And the Jewish Insider taking a victory lap. Look, we revealed this history. We got him fired for saying things like his Jewish colleagues appear drunk with the Israeli power and will live to see their payment. So that's a direct quote. I don't think that's the smartest thing, the best thing to say. I don't think you should go after your Jewish colleagues in general, but I'm certain there are some. It's extraordinary that, yes, there really are, and it sickens me, Jews who are so pleased and proud. Look at all the people we're killing. We're the big shots now. We're the bullies now. That's the attitude that some Jews have. And it is awful, and it's horrific. I don't think the way Johnson phrased that, and probably was taken out of context, was great. Do I think that's evidence of anti-Semitism or proof? No. What I would say is, and I think this is what Jewish people should strive for, is some grace, some forgiveness, some understanding. The Jewish state is committing genocide. The Jewish state is murdering tens of thousands of people. That is going to cause bitterness. That is going to cause anger. People are going to respond in ways that may not always be perfect. Right? Like we know poor Kamala has to be perfect. She can't ever say anything that isn't perfect. Well, you know, when people have empathy for, when people have concerns for an entire ethnic group that's being wiped off the map, they're not always going to say things the way you may want them to say them. So I guess Reverend Johnson didn't say things the way the Jewish Daily Insider wanted him to say it. And as a result, they got him fired. I mean, that's the bottom line. Horrific. You know, what I want so bad to see from people is understanding, is acceptance, is also, rather than pointing the finger at someone else, taking ownership. How wonderful would it be if the Jewish Daily Insider could come out and say, yeah, we're bad. Our bad. We're killing people. We're killing innocent women and children. Our bad. Here's some other points, other comments by Reverend Johnson, which are supposedly evidence of his anti-Semitism. How can a group of people who have suffered from the Holocaust today join with the alt-right community? He asked in a post. Isn't that a great question? I think it's a great question, except I didn't know there were a lot of Jews in the alt-right. I guess some are supporting Trump. I guess that's alt-right, but how about all the Jews who are supporting Harris and her pro-genocide approach? I would have liked to have seen maybe, Johnson going after Democratic Jews, but what is anti-Semitic in the least about this question? It seems totally opposite. Why are Jews who suffered such horrible bigotry and racism to the point where they were murdered in enormous numbers, how can we as a people back what Israel's doing? It's a great question. It's not an anti-Semitic one. Here's something else that supposedly proves this guy's anti-Semitic. I'm horrified when people like this are targeted and attacked. Reverend Johnson in Chicago. So he writes, the Nazis' ideology has been adopted by the Zionist Jews. The Israeli government offers renewal of Nazi language once directed towards European Jews, savages, dogs, vermin. 100% accurate. So, you see, when you read this stuff and you see how totally legitimate, accurate, defensible statements are characterized as anti-Semitic, you can understand why many of us are so skeptical of claims of anti-Semitism. And sure, there's some out there, but when you actually look, when you actually examine, as many have done, we find it's BS, it's crap. People said something we didn't like, so rather than acknowledge, well, we didn't like it because we want Israel to keep killing with impunity and immunity, we're going to accuse that person of anti-Semitism. It's the same thing. Oh, you're not voting for Kamala? It's because she's black. If that's the soapbox you want to get on, or it's because she's a woman, or because she's a mixed race. It can't possibly be you don't like her policies. This is how we don't have a democracy. This is how we don't have freedom. So they also don't like that he said, and I just will address, this is going to be my last point, but again, this is just another example of the smears and the extraordinary and unjust influence that I guess pro-Israel or Zionist forces have in this country. That they get this guy fired for voicing perfectly reasonable views. Now, I don't agree with this. He says let me say this. People have an absolute right to attack their oppressors by any means necessary. Now, I understand, again, sometimes you're watching a defenseless, helpless group of people being eradicated. You're seeing their apartment buildings bombed. You're seeing their hospitals turned into rubble. You're seeing their children being shot. So, of course, you're going to be angry, and you may write something you don't fully, you're not fully proud of in the future. So, do you get to attack your oppressors? Yeah, I think generally you should be allowed to. Yes, that's self-defense. I think the argument, though, would be, which I might make, why I'm not fully prepared to exonerate Hamas for October 7th. My argument would be, well, those people at that music festival, they weren't really oppressors, right? I mean, some of them were, and I get any Jew or any Israeli you could call an oppressor, but I'm not going to, if they're soldiers, if they're police, if they're the government, yeah, that seems like less of a stretch. This seems to me a bit of a stretch. So I'm not fully defending everything this guy said, but to fire him for this is outrageous. Especially he even apologized. I wish he hadn't apologized, but he did. It's just this isn't democracy. Just one other, I wanted to, so I'm not going to do anything else that allegedly shows his anti-Semitism, but this is also from the Jewish Daily Insider. The posts are a marked departure from his prior history of posting in solidarity with the Jewish community, and he often expressed real empathy for Jewish victims of, crime, violence, anti-Semitism. So he turned, right? He was, at least according to the Jewish Daily Insider, he was an ally of the Jewish community, and now he's critical of the Jewish community. You'd think, wouldn't you, if you're some sort of pro-Jewish activist group, and your whole mission is dedicated to eliminate or to punish or to stop anti-Semitism. Wouldn't you say to yourself, why did this guy change? What's going on here? Why did somebody who was in the past very sensitive, very sympathetic, what happened? Oh, he's watching us. He's watching Jews commit mass murder. He's watching Jews commit pogrom after pogrom. He's seeing the Jewish state drenched in Palestinian blood, and he's reacting to that. So maybe we need to take stock. Maybe we need to change what we're doing. You'd think, right? That's what I would think someone would do if they wanted to stop anti-Semitism. All right, this sickened me. This story here real quick. We talked about this yesterday on Gasland, or not Gasland, but the guy Josh Fox, right? He had that video, and then we played it with Chuck, a little bit with Chuck, and he went after Stein because she owned some stock. She owns some index funds, right? That's like the big crime. She owns index funds. So this really sickened me. The Nation. Fox has a piece in The Nation. And okay, I don't think they should have published it. I think it was irresponsible. I think it was wrong. I think it was dishonest. But okay, they did. Do they have to tweet out his propaganda? Did you know that Jill Stein has investments in Raytheon and ExxonMobil? And I guess in Home Depot. Yeah, she does in Home Depot. Maybe in the past she owned some individual stocks in Exxon. I don't know. I couldn't find any evidence of that. And I'm not thrilled with it. But did you know this like intoning? Basically, what she owns is index funds, which is exactly what Kamala owns. So I took the opportunity to respond because I was so repulsed by jerk. His dishonesty, his misrepresentation. So here's what I wrote. I put it up there. Like Harris, Stein owns a lot of index funds. They invest in every stock. Harris's husband owned stocks in an energy and exploration production fund till last year. Did you know that, Josh Fox? Did you know that? I mean, what an arrogant horse's ass that guy is to present it like in this condescending, snide way. Did you know? F you. F you, you piece of garbage. Kamala Harris all in for fracking. What a phony, what a hypocrite Josh Fox is, claiming to be an ally of the environment, a friend of the environment, just carrying water for her. Just absolutely not. All right, I had some positive stories, a little bit better. I don't want to go after our revolution. Let me put this up real quick. This was a meme from somebody that I have a lot of respect for. We share a lot of the same views. They're voting for Harris, or they voted for Harris, I suppose. I don't know if they voted yet. I assume they did, but maybe not. And I thought this was an interesting meme because it kind of goes along with the meme or the comment I saw earlier, which is you're not a team player. Make it personal. Why, what's the matter with you? Why aren't you backing you obviously don't care about the brown people that Kamala's going to hurt, or that Kamala would help, or that Trump would hurt. That's why you're supporting her. That's why you're supporting Stein, her, because you don't care about those people. That kind of stuff, that kind of crap. So this irritated me, this meme. And why don't I see it? Where is I make it disappear somehow? We'll get it back. But it's this little spider, and it's let's see, here we go. It's sort of weird, like, what's that hairy spider doing there? I'm sure that my third-party voting friends would be happiest if their candidate wins. Well, that's true. I would be happy if Jill Stein won. Yet I wonder what would make them second happiest. And it's sort of like, oh, there must be something nefarious going on, right? Oh, they'll be happy if Trump wins. And to me, this is so beside the point. It's so not relevant. The discussion we need to have, and it's what we have in this program every day. What do we have to do? What's the right things to do? How can we make things better? Not, well, what would make you second happiest? It's not relevant. What's relevant is what are the solutions to the incredibly serious, indeed, existential threats we face. So, nothing is going to make me second happiest. I don't want either Trump or Harris to win. I'm not going to be happy if either one wins. I hope, without any optimism, that Chuck and others are right, and Josh Fox, even though he says in a particularly nasty and arrogant way, I hope they're right, that she can be moved, that she's the enemy we want. I don't buy it. I haven't seen any evidence to support that. But yeah, we live in hope. All right, you guys have a great weekend. I'll be back. It will be an Arlen Monday. He's going to be here. It'll be, I guess we fall back, right? So that means we get an extra hour of sleep. I'm looking forward to that on, well, I guess Saturday night. We go to bed and we wake up the next morning. Extra hour, so that's nice. But let's go. Let me just play this clip real quick before we go, or as we're going out, because she was so impressed. If I played this, when did I play this? Was this for Arlen? I guess. So Don Lemon. I don't. Yeah. Where was it for Chuck? I can't. Let's see. It was the 29th. So that would have been. Yeah. So that had to be for Chuck. All right, let's see. We'll get this video up for you.
Up for the American people who pay the price here, because the massive war machine, the endless war machine here in this country, uses half of our congressional budget.
But let me get back to the beginning. For some reason it didn't start. Oh, that's the wrong video. I thought we were doing that. Okay, voting early. Yes, G.A. Stein. I got the wrong video. I apologize, folks, as usual. There's something else I do wrong here, but let's get it up. It was G.A. Stein is the video I want. Let's get it. Here we go.
Yeah, I voted for Jill Stein.
You did?
Yes, Green Party.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we don't.
You know, people are going to say, "Oh my gosh, you're wasting your vote." Yeah, that means another Donald Trump win. What do you say to that?
Do we live in a democracy or not?
Do you actually think she has a chance to win?
I think with our two-party system, not necessarily, but electorally, yes. My realistic thing is I'm not voting for genocide. So, that's what Kamala and Trump are, right?
Well,
what I hate is genocide.
I want to stop it there for 1 sec. I'm not voting for genocide. Ooh. I'm not voting for genocide because that's what Kamala and Trump are, right? So she turns the tables on Lemon. He's the interviewer, and these interviewers don't like being asked questions. But he should have answered it. It was a great question. She was spot on with that. You're going to give me your opinion. You're going to tell me about why I should vote for Jill Stein and she doesn't have a shot. You're going to give me all your talking points, even though you got fired, which is kind of weird because he got fired from CNN. So why is he still, because all these, they all want to get back. They all want to get back to that incredibly cushy, high-paying, easy job with the network. I mean, it's what a hell. He was making over $500,000, I think, for a few hours work, sitting in a studio talking like what I do, except I don't get any money for it. And he probably had to do even less work because I have to do all the production myself. He probably didn't even have. I'm sure he was writing stories. Be fair, they do work. It's not like he's not working, but he's writing the stories. But he's got a hell of a lot more support. And he does a lot of it by just reading what's on the teleprompter. So he had a great gig, and he wants to get back. And if he went against CNN, they never hire him back. So let's play some more. But her question, totally appropriate. That's what they both stand for, right? Right, Don? They're both for genocide, and he won't. So that's why the media is, as far as I'm concerned, they're useless to me. They're not. They're not honest brokers. They're just promoting their own corporate agenda.
What I hate is capitalism, and what I hate is seeing marginalized people oppressed. Yeah. So when is the time for us to stand up and say enough is enough? What is your red line?
Well, I think that you work with the person who actually has a real chance of winning, and then the more reasonable person, even though they may not agree 100% with what you believe.
Okay, so again, she doesn't agree with anything that Kamala. She made that very, very clear. She doesn't like capitalism. She doesn't like war. She doesn't like genocide. So there's no overlap between this voter and Kamala. So for him to say, oh, you work with what you like and who you agree with on more issues, but there's no daylight. There's only daylight between this voter and Harris. So Lemon's not listening, which is a huge faux pas when you're an interviewer, you're supposed to listen. And now he's lecturing, which again, if you're going to lecture, then at least answer a question. She said they're both for genocide, right? Can't answer. He's got nothing. Oh, by the way, before you go, program's almost over. Don't forget, please click like, please click subscribe. We've got to get those numbers up. All right, here we go.
I believe politics is like public transportation, right? You want to get in a limo and you want to be delivered to your address.
Just like you're full of crap.
Actual politics and living in a democracy is actually the person that gets you closest to where you want to go, rather than having someone deliver you to your front door, which is never ever going to happen.
I just think if the delivery car is fascism, aren't we doomed either way? I don't know. I just think the whole system needs to
then
be
he cuts because he
upgraded.
didn't want to answer, or he probably answered somehow and he didn't like the answer. poster didn't look good, so I had to cut it out.
In order for politicians to serve the people, they need to listen to the people.
But you've already voted.
Yeah, and so she has. So, all right, that'll do it for that clip. And we'll just leave it, but I hope you have a great weekend. You know, she said it, there's a red line, right? And I know that some voters say, no, I'm going to just vote for whoever I think is less awful if that's what I have to do. I don't care how awful they are. If they're even a little tiny bit less awful, I don't care if they shot someone on Fifth Avenue. If they're less awful to me, I'm going to vote for them. And that's a theory of politics that I guess is respectable. But my response is, if you do that, you're assuring yourself you'll never get anything better, because the candidates keep getting worse and worse. We are not seeing any improvement. In fact, Harris's one reason she's so bad is there wasn't even a primary. The Democratic Party didn't even want to allow you as a primary voter to have a say over who was going to run as a Democrat. They're not team players. All right, have a great weekend, as I said. Oh, I didn't talk about walking. Walking is so good for you. Do walk. Walk as much as you possibly can, whenever you get an opportunity. That's something you can do for yourself.